Сейчас сядем на лодку и поедем осматривать архитектуру. Еще не насмотрелись. Ну, нам, правда, расскажут, что да.
Hello, good afternoon, guys.
Watch your step, be careful.
How you doing, sir? Welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
Подожди, давай сядем.
I want to welcome all of you aboard the Innisfree and to Chicago, and yes, my name is Lisa. I had a chance to talk to a few of you before the tour, so I know we've got some people from Oregon, marshland, swampland, with wild onion plants and this terrible onion smell emanating from it, and they wanted nothing to do with that. So, but Father Marquette, he looked at that same area, Wolf Point, and he said, this is going to be a future gate of empire and seat of commerce. And it took over 200 years to realize this dream. It wasn't until our first mayor, William Butler Ogden, arrived in the 1830s that we really got a jump start on our economy and began to develop into the city that we see today. As all of that began to happen, we had architects and engineers come to our city and begin to innovate and pioneer. And one of them created the very first skyscraper right here in Chicago. Is that William LeBaron Jenney innovated the steel cage in which the parts of a building, the exterior parts of a building, are hung on, allowing the building to soar to epic new heights. So the home insurance building in 1880 was a real cloud buster, as they called it back then. It soared into the sky 10 stories. Thank you. In 1922, there was a very famous architectural competition held in Chicago for the most beautiful office building in the world. 260 entries came in from all over the world competing for the top prize of $100,000, and the winner is now on our right-hand side. It is Trivium Tower, which is an Art Deco design from 1925 by Hoods and Howells, but it's also Beaux-Art. It is inspired by classic architecture, in this case, the Rouen Cathedral in France. So notice that spidery Gothic crown with the large flying buttresses protruding out of it, and the very intricate carvings, which are called tracery. 6 different shades of white terracotta that gets brighter as it goes up. This is the Wrigley Building, which is also Beaux-Art, modeled after the Giralda Tower in Sevilla, Spain, which was built for the glory of God. This building, however, was built for the glory of chewing gum. When Wrigley was asked why he chose to make his building white at a time when the river was so dirty it could never stay white, he said he wanted it to remind his customers of the clean, fresh breath that his gum provided. The next building on our right-hand side needs no introduction. Take a look now over to your right-hand side. We are looking at the last building designed in Chicago by the father of modernism, or the international style. It is the old IBM Building on my right-hand side, designed in 1971. It has all the classic elements of the Miesian boxes of the 60s, the exposed steel beams, dark glass curtain wall, visually weightless quality, no ornamentation, and flat roof. Mies van der Rohe said, "Less is more, God is in the details." He came to us from the Bauhaus in Berlin, Germany, inspired generations of architects, including Bertrand Goldberg, who is next, who either slept through the class on right angles or never attended. Because you can see Marina City, or what we call the corncob towers of Chicago. These two reinforced concrete towers, 60 stories tall. They are a city within a city. They feature all these elements to draw people to live along the river in the late 60s, including a boat dock, restaurants, bars, and parking. But don't be fooled, that is valet only. They do not allow residents of this building, Chicagoans or visitors, to take those sharp curves. We are not trying to reenact the Blues Brothers. We did that once. But One of our examples of the classic Chicago school design of architecture from the 1880s is now on our right-hand side. This is the Reed Murdock Center, designed by George Nimmons in 1912. It has all those classic early elements, including the red masonry, the large Chicago-style windows, the tripartite structure, ending in the decorative Capitol, that beautiful clock tower up there. But you might also notice that this building is slightly lopsided. Now, the Riverwalk, which Carol Ross Barney is doing, this is really a part of a plan that has been in place in Chicago for over 150 years, called the Chicago Plan of 1909 by Daniel Burnham, which envisioned turning Chicago into a Paris on the prairie, with these sweeping, open, Parisian-like boulevards giving access to the Chicago River. Navy Pier was an original piece of that plan as well, giving access to the lake. Well, the building to our right-hand side now is the Merchandise Mart, designed for Marshall Field in 1932. In the 1920s, buildings started to soar into the sky like never before, and so architectural design kept pace with that. So the emphasis became verticality. You can see these strong vertical lines going up the building, created by the dark green squares or spandrels. It is one of the largest spaces by square footage in the United States, second only to the Pentagon at over 4 million square feet. Cells. Anyway, so we are now in Wolf Point, which is where the three branches of the river intersect, and this is historically the beginning of downtown Chicago. This was, for most of its history, the Wild West of the Midwest. It was a fur trading outpost that had 3 taverns and no church, and a boat to bar hop from tavern to tavern. You can see we set these standards early that are still in place today. Water that slosh back and forth as the building sways in the wind to keep it from swaying too far. These are called dampers. Some of you may remember your grandmother saying, "Put a damper on it." Well, that's where that phrase comes from. If you look at the clock tower, it's depicting the history of writing. There's a man writing with a quill pen on papyrus. A very unique design from 1929. It was home to the Daily News newspaper for most of its history. In 1983 by Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill, it has taken the influence for its design off the environment. So this dark green glass curtain wall that curves in the front, does anyone want to take a guess what is influencing this design in the environment? On our right-hand side right now, we are looking at the grand old post office, which was designed in 1932 by Graham Anderson, Probst and Wright. And there are a couple of designs mingling here. If you look at the towers, you've got the Art Deco, those vertical lines. You can see that steel cage I mentioned that was invented here in 1880 as the centerpiece of that building. What you can't see, however, in Chicago is probably the most important. Beneath the foundation, there are these stilt-like structures called caissons that go at least 150 feet down into the bedrock. They're there to support the building on the marshland that Chicago was and still is. Postmodern high-end condo designed by Pickard and Chilton in the early millennium, which features a convex parabolic arch. So we've got concave, we've got convex, which is what makes it my favorite. I have my master's in history, so I'm a full-on history nerd. So I like things that tell a story as well as are beautiful to look at. Okay, here we go on to the North Branch. Oh, I see. We were standing by for this barge. We are still a working river, guys. This barge is headed from Goose Island. I'll show you Goose Island in a moment. It was a refrigerator for most of its history. When they converted it into a condo, they cut into the walls, discovered that they were 4 feet thick and insulated with thousands of pounds of frozen horsehair. The building right next door to that is River Cottages. One of my other favorites features these porthole shapes, spiral staircases, the innovative use of the triangle. This was the mark of the architect Harry Weiss, who was a yachtsman, a sailor. This is also one of the largest reinforced concrete buildings in the world at over 2.6 million square feet. So large that if you worked for the mail order business back in the day, you would have to report to this building. closely.